Our story opens with Alyssa finding an abandoned newborn in the forest. Following this, she chooses to adopt her and call her Viola. We are then transported to the present timeline. Viola is all grown up, so much so that she looks like Alyssa's mother and not the other way around. Viola often gets mistaken for Alyssa's mother. Viola goes with her mother, Alyssa, to the market, where she begs for a crystal. Alyssa initially declines, but Viola's stubbornness eventually convinces her mother to give in. The seller explains the significance of teaching children discipline to Alyssa. Alyssa initially plans to be strict with Viola, but she changes her mind after witnessing the latter's politeness and kindness. Giriko and Luna, Viola's aunts, pay a visit. Following this, Alyssa starts griping about how much she looks like Viola's daughter. As a consequence, they propose she dress in a witchier, more mature manner. Alyssa, however, tells them that such outfits will make her appear like she's dressed in a costume. When Viola arrives, her aunts immediately begin gushing over her breasts. They continue by saying that when she was younger, they encouraged her to try to outdo her mother in terms of breast size. Following that, we learn that Alyssa was warned not to become a mother to Viola once she found her. Yet she was set on adopting her and bringing her up as her own. Viola is seen summoning a phoenix from the crystal. Her mother has instructed her to call upon something less odd, such as a cat or a bird. Viola worries that if she summons a cute animal, her mother will treat it with more love. Following this, she decides to tend to a young tree. Viola's phoenix is shown to be envious of the sapling. However, it is seen encouraging the plant to grow. Viola goes to see her Aunt Lyra. She goes on to tell her that she's there to purchase poisonous herbs to defeat the enemy. The scene then shifts to a touching conversation between Viola and Aunt Lyra. She continues by saying that Viola is still a young girl in her mind. Following this, she reminisces about the way Viola was as a newborn, the way she breastfed, and the way Alyssa felt like she wasn't being a good enough mother to Viola. Not long after, Alyssa comes into the shop in search of Viola. After hearing of her mother's efforts for her through her Aunt Lyra, Viola begins to shower her with affection. Fennel, a new character, appears in the episode's second half. His feelings for Alyssa are obvious, and Viola's animosity against him stems from her fear that he will steal her mother's love. Viola's extreme possessiveness towards her mother becomes apparent shortly thereafter. She pushes Alyssa to call Fennel her younger brother. She even prevents Fennel from sipping the tea that Alyssa prepared for him. Viola takes Fennel out on a mystical fishing trip. She tricks him into catching fish, which is a deception to begin with. When he pulls Phoenix from the portal, he thinks he's finally caught a big one, but he soon sees that Viola was just wasting his time and energy. Viola's aunts Luna and Giriko drop by. They present the three inappropriate familiars to Alyssa: a bondager, a masochist, and a shamer. Since it's not appropriate for Viola to see them, Alyssa urges the aunts to send them away. Following that, the aunts introduce Viola and Alyssa to a magical reminiscence book. A memory can be captured in the book like a snapshot. As a consequence, the four of them have a day of looking back with fondness and reminiscing. Viola gets sick. She doesn't do well with her cold and fever because she rarely gets sick. She attempts to force her way through it, but her body eventually gives out. Following that, Alyssa tends to Viola and inquires about her food preferences. Alyssa goes shopping for chicken after hearing that Viola wants chicken soup. When she finally gets home, she makes Viola a pot of her delicious chicken soup. Viola is already feeling better the day after she got sick. She then proves to Alyssa that she is fine by showing no signs of fever. Then, we go back in time a decade. When Viola was younger, she had a problem with bed spelling, which is when a person casts a spell while asleep in order to channel a magical being. Following this, Alyssa instructs her on the use of magic and the identities of other enchanted beings. Alyssa tries to help Viola see that mystical creatures are very large and that they cannot possibly care for one while she is still a little child, after Viola had told her that she wants to grow up around one. Fennel thanks Glind, his furniture-making orc friend. Following this, Fennel asks Glind if there's anything he can help him with in return. After this, Glind requests that he introduce him to a tall woman. After some convincing from Glind, Fennel finally agrees to do it. Following this, Fennel sets up a meeting between Glind and Viola. The three of them share an uncomfortable meal together in a cafe. Viola, on her way out, overhears Fennel encouraging Glind to make an effort to get closer to her. He tells him that if she gets into a relationship, he too will have a chance to form a connection with Alyssa. When he looks back and sees Viola behind him, he quickly escapes. Shortly after, Viola takes Glind home and introduces him to Alyssa as her friend. Alyssa is seen tending to an egg laid by a lizardkin. Viola soon joins her, and the two of them can be seen having a great time taking care of the egg. Later that day, the egg's lizardkin parents, Geeta and Malak, arrive to take their child home. They express gratitude to Viola and Alyssa for caring for their child. Before they leave, they give Viola an ostrich egg and ask her to get in touch with them when their lizardkin baby is born. She appears thrilled. Viola summons Fennel. She introduces him to her mystical companion creature, and it swallows him. Fennel finds out that Viola has left the house to go shopping. Following this, he decides to make the most of the situation and hurries to spend time with Alyssa. Fennel visits Alyssa at her home and finds Glyne there, tending to her needs. He suggests that Glyne go home so that he and Alyssa can have some time to themselves. Glynd, however, refuses to leave, claiming that Viola specifically requested his help in keeping her mother from Fennel. Fennel and Glynd have an argument over elves not long after. Glynd has high standards for elves, but Fennel completely squashes them. Viola interrupts their fight towards the end, but Fennel is slightly disappointed that he and Alyssa did not have any private time together. But the fact that Alyssa praised him makes him happy, and he takes that as a step in the right direction. Viola and Alyssa go to Uncle Pondo's potato farm. We find out that Uncle Pondo is married to Lyra and that she is now out of town. When Alyssa comments on the farm's peculiar potatoes, Pondo explains that Giriko's magic fertilizer is responsible. Alyssa then gets in touch with Giriko to have the matter fixed. Lyra arrives in the middle of the chaos and gets furious with Uncle Pondo for making things more difficult for her. Towards the end, Alyssa and Viola get to take some potatoes back home with them as they had hoped. Viola and Giriko have caused a potato war to break out outside of Alyssa's house. Eventually, though, everything calms down and Phoenix makes an appearance. A fairy by the name of Rosehype stops by Alyssa's house. She then asks Alyssa and Viola to lend a hand to her as she deals with her brother. We now follow Alyssa and Viola as they pay a visit to a young lady by the name of Anna Fiatio. She goes on to tell them about her garden not flowering anymore, which is a great cause of concern for her. Torino Umbrello, whom she plans to marry, is another person she introduces them to. Alyssa and Viola meet Rosie Hip's brother, the Meadowsweet fairy named Sweet Cheeks. Following that, the reason why the garden isn't blooming is because Sweet Cheeks doesn't want Anna to marry Torino. They decide to investigate Torino's background in order to determine whether or not he is dangerous to Anna after throwing around a few ideas. On doing some mirror snooping, they learn that Torino is an amazing guy. Consequently, Sweet Cheeks has no alternative but to give Anna the option to marry Torino. It is then revealed to Alyssa and Viola that Anna, being merely human, is unable to see the two fairies who help her. Since Sweet Cheeks has taken on a fatherly role with Anna, he naturally wants the best for her. Anna finds solace in the knowledge that her late father is watching over her in the garden, and Sweet Cheeks has no intention to strip her of this. While Anna and her fiancé Torino are in the garden towards the end of the episode, Sweet Cheeks causes the flowers to bloom once more. This symbolizes the fact that he has given them his blessing. Viola takes up baking, but her snake cookies all end up looking like giant poops. Alyssa tries to help by baking new ones in different colors, but the effect goes from disgusting to comical. Since they do taste delicious, everyone eats them anyway to not upset Viola. Alyssa recalls a childhood bedtime story of the Sandman. Viola reveals Sandman is a real fairy who coincidentally has just crashed through her window due to falling asleep while flying. Sandman has recently been struggling to sleep ever since his wife left him, plus he is getting older with aching joints. Viola offers one of Phoenix's healing spells, but Sandman is too scared of Phoenix. Alyssa offers hot milk, but Sandman rejects this as hot milk is used by another sleep fairy, Ola Lukoje, whom Sandman does not get along with. They decide to take him to a real doctor for treatment, plus he decides to try to talk to his wife. For their help, he gifts Alyssa a bottle of his sleeping sand. Giriko insists on buying it, but as it is worth millions, Alyssa is unable to sleep for a week due to her worrying about thieves and burglars. Luna asks Alyssa for cooking lessons, which Alyssa refuses due to the danger. As the magical price of her powerful fortune-telling, everything Luna cooks is either surreal or a disaster. Being immortal, Phoenix volunteers as food taster and explosively transforms into a chicken version of himself. As compensation, Luna shares her prediction a certain someone will soon visit, which terrifies Alyssa. A week later, Phoenix is still a chicken, so Alyssa and Viola take him to see nurse sisters Sheeta and Killer. Killer is a mad scientist researcher who, having never seen a phoenix before, is determined to dissect him. Sheeta gets her under control, allowing the doctor to examine him, who determines Phoenix has been constipated since eating Luna's food. After successfully going to the bathroom, Phoenix returns to normal. A series of short sketches of popular fairy tales is shown with everyone playing different roles. Sketches include Alyssa White, the Golden Axe, the Silver Axe, and the Third Axe, Orc and the Beanstalk, the Little Muscle Maid, Alyssa Riding Hood, and due to a disagreement between Viola and Fennel, Alyssa Riding Hood Take 2. Viola notices Alyssa is not herself following news of the upcoming visitor, but neither Giriko, Luna, or Lyra will tell her. At Lyra's shop, Viola encounters a handsome, playboy sorcerer looking for Alyssa. He flirts with Viola shamelessly until Lyra punishes him and Viola secretly poisons him with laxatives. Viola reveals Alyssa is her mother, causing the shocked sorcerer to reveal he is Ori, Alyss's father, who was unaware he had a grand... Alyssa arrives and Ori settles down after realizing Alyssa adopted Viola and is still unmarried. Alyssa claims she kept Viola's secret, so as not to expose her to Ori until she was old enough to resist being influenced by his irresponsibility and bad behavior. Alyssa reveals Ori is technically her uncle, her mother's brother, who co-parented her as a father figure. She allows him to stay one night until Lyra reveals he had flirted with Viola, so Alyssa throws him out. Alyssa reveals her mother did happily visit Viola once as a baby. As the laxatives kick in, causing Ori to have to leave quickly, he cannot shake the feeling he has seen a similar face to Viola somewhere many years before. Lyra and Pondo's son refuses to leave his room. Worried Lyra will find out, Pondo enlists Viola's help. He eventually admits he was too embarrassed by his messy hair to be seen in public. Stunned by such a stupid reason, Viola fetches Lyra. Later, from his hospital bed, he admits he did not want Viola specifically to see him, suggesting he has a crush on her, to Pondo's delight. Meanwhile, the oblivious Viola brews a potion to cure messy hair. Gita's egg hatches so everyone goes to the park so Gita can make friends with other new mothers. There, Lyra encounters Lady, her childhood enemy. This was caused by Lady's tsundere personality, as she has secretly wanted to be Lyra's friend since they first met. She impulsively challenges Gita to a park debut contest with her friend Birdie, who is also a first-time mother. After speaking with as many parents as possible, Alyssa declares the contest a tie and forces both sides to apologize, hinting she figured out Lady's tsundere personality. Unfortunately, Lady panics and slaps away Lyra's offered handshake. She then runs away, leaving everyone feeling that making friends might be harder than they thought. Alyssa and Viola go shopping, leaving Phoenix in charge of Viola's other familiar, Toxic Koala. In Viola's absence, Toxic Koala becomes wantonly destructive, completely destroying the house in a tantrum against Phoenix's orders as senior familiar. Alyssa and Viola return and blame Phoenix for not controlling his junior familiar. Outraged at this injustice, Phoenix quits as senior and throws his own tantrum. Phoenix overindulges and becomes fat. Kikla's suggestion she surgically remove his excess flesh for scientific study is rejected. Instead, she creates a sensible diet and exercise program for him. 1 month later, Phoenix loses so much weight he shrinks to the size of a robin, requiring Alyssa and Viola to fatten him back up to his normal size. Desperate for romantic advice, Fennel and Glind pay the fine to free Ori from prison after he was caught cheating at a casino. Ori claims his skill with the ladies is his empathy, having once been turned into a woman for 2 weeks by his sister. He therefore decides to turn them both into women, despite their protests. Alyssa overhears the commotion and sets Toxic Koala on Ori as a punishment for his lechery. Ori complains about Viola being kept secret for 16 years by Alyssa, Luna, Giriko, Glind, and Fennel. Viola is surprised Ori is fine with Fennel being in love with Alyssa, though Ori admits this is only because Fennel has 0 chance of seducing Alyssa. Despite feeling slightly guilty, Alyssa blames Ori for staying away so long waiting for an arrest warrant to expire after seducing another man's wife. Viola expresses interest in meeting her grandmother, though Alyssa explains she is mysterious and impossible to keep track of. She met Viola once as a baby and reassured Alyssa she would be a good mother. Luna and Giriko try to cheer Ori up with Viola's baby pictures and funny stories, but this worsens his mood, so he bullies Fennel. Fennel can only recall stories of Viola causing him pain and suffering. Ori recalls Alyssa struggled to learn magic as a child and fell ill frequently but acted mature for her age. Phoenix does not understand the problems everyone is discussing, since to him everyone seems like a child. After everyone leaves, Alyssa and Viola go shopping as normal, and Alyssa is exasperated people still mistake Viola as being her mother.